Hi everyone, my name is Lamin Singatai and welcome to HTML5 from scratch. In this course, we will be learning how HTML5 works and all different technologies that work with HTML5 to become a web developer. So this course is going to cover a lot of things. We're going to be covering HTML5 itself, CSS, and the frameworks like Bootstrap. We'll also learn how to do a responsive web design using Bootstrap. We'll also be introduced to JavaScript, and we'll also learn how to deploy websites to the internet using GitHub as a source repo and using Netlify as a development tool. Throughout this course, we will be doing several exercises and small projects to help us practice what we are learning. At the end, we will be doing one final project. We will be going to build a professional portfolio website which will have some contact forms, some tables, and some stylings. After this, we will be deploying this website to the internet using Netlify and GitHub. So, who is this course for? This course is for anyone or everyone. If you're someone that has never done any coding before and want to be a web developer, this is a course for you. If you're someone that has done some work on HTML before and want a bit of refreshment, this is a course for you. So before we go ahead and learn about HTML5, let's first understand what HTML is all about. HTML was developed by Tim Berners-Lee in 1990. HTML is short for Hypertext Markup Language. It is used to create electronic documents that are displayed to the web. You can connect pages to one another within hyperlinks. At the moment, this might not make sense, but it will as we go. So, HTML5. We first need to understand that HTML5 is not the only version that has been invented, because there used to be HTML 1, 2, 3, 3.2, and 4, and then 5 now. However, 5 was introduced in 2008 and was then standardized, meaning the solo, in 2014. And is the newest and current version of HTML itself. So if you've used HTML 1, 2, 3, 4 before in the past, you will find a lot of similarities on this HTML5 because it uses the basic rules as the old version. However, there are few tags and elements that have been added that are a bit different. So the new tags, new attributes, and also HTML5 allows better semantics and for dynamic elements that are activated using JavaScript. So it works better with JavaScript as well. HTML makes modern and dynamic web applications easier than ever. It's just nice and clean. Let me show you. Now, this is the new version HTML, the new elements that have been added. So an example, you have the article. This article, you can use this to create blogs. You can use this to create containers. You have things like the footer. You can use this to create a footer section. You have something like header. You can use this to create the header section. Just by reading it, you understand what it means, what it stands for. So it's very, very simplified to layman terms. You don't need to kind of do an algorithm to understand it. So we have also got the new input types for the forms, which means now you have tell. Everyone knows about tell. So tell means phone, search, URL, which is a link, emails, the date time. So everything seems to be a layman terms more in HTML5. So it's quite slick and easy to understand. Let me show you the older HTML and the newer version of HTML. Now, this is the older version of HTML and this is the newer version of HTML. If you look at the older version of HTML, on the doc type, you have to fully put the public string, the whole string in. It's too busy. And on the right, all you need to do now on HTML5 is just literally have the doc type HTML, which we will do when we start doing our exercises. And obviously you can see that it's busy and you can see that it's nice and slick. So these are kind of differences that you get on the HTML. 5. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It makes the web pages beautiful. CSS and HTML are kind of brothers and sisters. They have to work together to be able to give a nice output. So CSS is kind of beautifying whatever HTML wants to output in a way in the front end. CSS is a style sheet language used for describing the presentation of a document written in markup language like HTML. The name cascading refers to which style rules applies if more than one rule matches a particular element. An example of this is if I have a style and I use header 1 for argument's sake. Header 1 has 3 styles and I created header 1 as a class style, and I created another header 1 and I created another header 1. In those headers I have a font size 20, 13, 14. 14 as the bottom CSS style. So what that means, because it's cascading, it's going to pick whatever is at the bottom. So see it at the bottom and override anything that is on the top. So all the time, cascading, it's picking the things from the bottom, not picking from the top. CSS itself is specifications are maintained by W2C. They manage and maintain CSS. Now let's kind of understand a bit about the actual CSS, how it works with HTML. So there's 3 ways you can work CSS with HTML. You have the inline CSS. The inline CSS basically means I will have my CSS and HTML in the same line. This is okay, but it's not the best practice because it's messy. We have the internal CSS. Internal CSS basically is you have the CSS not in line with your HTML, but on the headers part of your HTML. Then you have the external CSS. This is the best practice because in this case, you have a separate file, which is only a CSS file inside it, and you link it to your HTML. So your HTML will reference all the styles from there. This might not make sense right now, but as we go, we will practice it in the exercises. CSS is designed to enable a separation of presentation and content. This separation provides more flexibility and enable multiple web pages to share formatting by specifying the relevant CSS in a separate .css file, which is this. So you just need to reference it here and it will pick it up as it goes. A separate CSS style or a separate style sheet also reduces complexity and reduce repetition of structural content on your HTML page. Basically what it means by that is if you remove style color blue, this will make things a little bit cleaner and easier on your HTML and easier in the eye to read. It doesn't need to be busy. So it allows us to represent the same mockup page in a different style for different rendering methods such as on-screen, in print, and different size devices. This is one of the best features of CSS. An example, I can have this here without the style. So paragraph, this is a paragraph. I can have it to show on mobile, desktop, iPad, and any other screens in a different way. I can make it show different color on each and every individual different type of screens, and I don't need to write a lot of code or a lot of HTML code to achieve this because my CSS will manage this for me. So these are one of the best parts. Now let's go to Bootstrap. Bootstrap is the most popular CSS framework for developing responsive and mobile first websites. In a layman term, Bootstrap is a giant collection of handy and reusable bits of code written in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In other words, it is a library. It is also a front-end development framework that enable developers and designers to quickly build full responsive websites. It is a library. You can literally just go and pick snippets from there and add it into your HTML, and your front end will be looking nice. So you don't really need to think, oh, how does the styling need to be? What do I need to do? Because Bootstrap has got this handled for you. So Bootstrap saves us writing a lot of unnecessary CSS code and giving us more time to spend on our design of the page itself. And this lot of CSS code, an example is, if you need to write a custom CSS code, if you're not very good at it, you might cause a lot of time wasting and a lot of issues that you might encounter as you go using media queries. The best part of Bootstrap, it is completely free. JavaScript is a scripting or programming language that allows you to implement complex features on your page. So in a way, JavaScript is there to give interactive things on our website. We will build small projects and small applications as we go throughout. We'll also get some experience in learning how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript itself will all work together as a team. Alongside HTML, CSS, JavaScript is one of the core technologies on the web, as it provides the interactive part of the pages, and this is a very essential part of web applications nowadays. I am 100% sure, okay, probably saying 95, but 100% sure that websites nowadays uses JavaScript, almost all of them. All the major browsers like Firefox, Safari, Google, they all have JavaScript engines to execute them. Now we are kind of enlightened about how the foundation of HTML, HTML5, CSS, the Bootstrap, and JavaScript. We understand what they mean. Now it's time for us to prepare our environment and kind of learn and practice what we're learning. So in this course, we're going to use Visual Studio Code, in short, VS Code, to do our projects. And there are other code editors that you can use. However, in this course, we are going to use VS Code. If you want to use Notepad++ and you already have it, feel free to go along. But I would recommend Visual Studio Code because we are going to start from scratch, and we're going to use some extensions in Visual Studio Code to help us facilitate the development easier. So without further ado, let's start. Now we need to download Visual Studio Code and install it and prepare it so that we can start developing our website. To do this, we need to come to Visual Studio Code website, which is code.visualstudio.com. In their website, they will give us options to download the software according to our operating system that we have. So if you've got a Mac, you just need to select the Mac. If you've got a Windows, you just need to select that one. And if you've got a Linux, you just need to select either one that you've got. I've got a Windows, so I'm going to select the Windows one and then I'll let it download. However, I will not be installing this in full because I have already got Visual Studio Code installed in my system. But for the sake of this course, I will show you how this is done. So what I'll do now that it's installed, I'll go click on the Visual Studio downloaded file, and then I'll just say OK with it, OK, and then next, accept, and in here, what I'll do is I will have to accept everything here that is saying, tick everything, and then afterwards it might ask you for a restart of your computer, which is completely fine. I'll go next, and then I'll click on installed. After the installation, you will be required to restart your computer, which is fine. Restart your computer and follow along throughout the course. So I'll close that because I've already got it. So now that I assume that you already have Visual Studio Code installed in your computer, you will have Visual Studio Code logo on your computer. Here, I'll put it at the corner here. And in here, all you have to do is double click on it. So now when you double click, it will open Visual Studio Code for you. Now what we need to do is we need to set up the extensions, so the relevant extensions that we need to work on this project. To do this, we need to come to extensions over here, or Ctrl+Shift+X if you're using a Windows. If you're using a Mac, you can just go View and Extensions. Okay, so I'll click on that one, Extensions, and I am looking for few extensions that I want to install. The first one that I want to install is ESLint. So the ESLint, you can just search for ESLint, or it might suggest it for you accordingly. Now you just need to install it. I've already got it installed, but let me show you how installation is done. All you need to do is click on the installation button and then it will install. Now that you have that installed, search for HTML, and in the HTML, install that, the HTML snippet, install the CSS support, HTML CSS support, install the Intel Sense. Okay, now that you have these installed, now let's beautify our Visual Studio. Now search for Material Icon Theme. The first option, which is that one, and install that one. This is very good because it shows you the extension types that you have. So if you're using HTML, it will tell you what the extension is, so that you know. So it will give you something like the F5 here logo, which is the HTML logo. So you will kind of differentiate the CSS from the HTML and the JavaScript. So now that we have this, next we need to now create a folder, and that folder will be used throughout our project. So we'll then say new, open a folder. On our desktop, we don't have a folder at the moment, so we'll create a new folder. We'll say first HTML page. Now, and then select. So now that we have our first HTML page, the reason why this is very, very important is anytime now I can go to this page and I can create folders. So for example, I can create a folder here and say images, and then I can put files in there and it will automatically include in our project. So this is the benefit from it. At the moment, I'm just going to remove it because we don't need to put image folder at the moment. So we need to come here and create our first HTML page. We'll then say File, New File, and then in here we'll say File again, Save As. This is because we want, when we're working on our site, on our page, it detect what we're doing. So we need to first save the page. So we'll say first dash HTML, and then we will say, we'll select the extension, the save type as HTML, and then save. So now that we have got our first HTML file, now let's kind of familiarize ourselves with the elements and the tags within HTML before we start coding directly. So the first thing is, let's kind of understand what to do before we start. Before you start a HTML file, you need to first declare the doc type HTML. This doc type HTML defines the document to be HTML. So let me just write it here. Defines the document to be HTML5. Okay. After this, what you need is you need to now declare your HTML root element. So this element, I'll just remove that. So basically, this element is the root element, and it literally, you have to put all your tags and element within it. So in a basic term, is the root element of an HTML page. Okay, so we need to kind of understand that anything that we now build will be within this root element. Inside there, the next portion, we have to now write the head. The head is one of the best features because you can write all your meta information within it. An example is you can put a title, you can put your keywords, you can put your meta descriptions of your page. So you're kind of putting information about the page so that Google and other people can know what this page is all about. So this again, it contains meta information about the document or page. Okay, so now that we have this, now we need inside this, as I was saying, you can have the title element. I'll remove that as well. So the title element basically specifies a title for the document. So you kind of saying it what the document title is all about. We will practice this as we go. After this, we have what is called the body tag element. So the body, again, I'll remove this one. So the body basically is an element that contains the visible page contents. So the body is what the outside world see on the web. So anything within the body can be visible to the internet. Well, can be visible in the eye to the internet. Now within this, you can create the header 1 element. The header 1 element basically defines the large header or large heading. Header 1 is like a title. It's the large heading. But then we have header 2, we have header 2, header 3, header 2, header 3, header 4, header 5, and header 6. Okay, so I'll remove that. So now we have that. Now in there you can also have the P. The P stands for paragraph. So if you want to write a paragraph, you have to start it with a P, and this P defines a paragraph. Okay, P defines a paragraph. So I'll recap again. The doc type defines a document to be a HTML5. The HTML is the root element, so everything needs to be within it. The head contains the meta information like the title, and the title itself specifies the document. Then you got the body. The body is what gets visible to people, and within this body you have the header 1, the paragraphs, and loads more elements that we are going to go through as we go. But this is a kind of base for you to understand. Now let's look into HTML tag names. HTML tag names are elements names surrounded within angle brackets like this. And basically in HTML tag names, this is how it gets written. So you write the tag name, you close the tag name, and you have in here the content goes here. Okay, so in here the content goes here with each. So in HTML, every tag normally comes in pairs. So if you have a paragraph, you have to close the paragraph, which is this. So the first tag is the start. So P starts or opens the paragraphs, and this P close the paragraph. Okay, so every tag name needs to close. So for example, if we use P as a tag name, we need to start, put our content within P, and then we need to close it. So HTML knows that you have started a paragraph and you have closed the paragraph. So this is the end of the paragraph. Okay. So now let's look at HTML page structure. How all HTML pages needs to be structured to work. First, we need to declare our doc type HTML5 to declare that this is a HTML5 document. Then we will then open our HTML root tag. In there, we have our head, as you remember, where it contains all our meta information. Then in here, we'll have our title. And within the title, we'll say first HTML page that we have created. Then we close that. As you see, the tag is closed. Start, end, start, end. Now we need to finish up. We need to now write our body. Write our body tag and close our body tag. Within our body tag, we will put our first header, which is header 1. And within the first header 1, we'll say this is a heading. Okay? And then what we do, we'll add a smaller header. So header 2, and this will be, this is another heading but smaller. Okay? Now that we have this, now let's put a paragraph. We open our paragraph, we close our paragraph, and in between our paragraph tags, now we type that this is a paragraph. Okay? Let's put another paragraph, and then here we'll say another paragraph, and we say this is another paragraph. Okay? Now we save this. Now that we save this, now we need to look into the browser how it looks. So we come to our document file, which is the HTML page folder, and then we have the file here. And when we have the file here, all we need to do is double click on this so that it can open in our browser. So we double click, see what we get. We get the header, we get this is another header but smaller, we get a paragraph, and we get this another paragraph. As you can notice, we are only seeing what is in the body. But however, if we inspect this, click on inspect. When we inspect this, we can see that there's a doc type HTML in it to declare. There's HTML that is surrounded in the root, as you can see. Then in the between, that we have a head. In the head, it's telling us the title of the HTML, which you can see on the top here. It's saying first HTML page. After the HTML, then you got the body. The body is what people are seeing. I can change anything here. This is another test. Okay, and this will change here. So now that we're seeing this, now let's do more things on our HTML using elements and tags. Let's familiarize ourselves with some tags like break, bold, and few others. So HTML itself has some stylings that are already included in it. So here I'm going to create another paragraph, and this time I'm going to use a very long sentence. So I'll say paragraph, and then what I will do is I'll go to the browser, then look for Epsilon Lorem. Epsilon Lorem, the first one here, this is a content generator. It randomly creates Epsilon Lorem content for us to use as a demo content. So we're just going to copy that one. And when we copy that, we come here, we paste it in between. Now we save this and look into our browser how it looks. Let's refresh, and when we refresh, we can see that it's giving us a paragraph. However, now what we want to do is kind of break the dots so that it can go to the next. So we don't want all in one line. So what you can do is every point that you are here, you can introduce yourself to the break element. The break element, you don't need to open and close the tags. Literally all you need to do is create the break like that. This will open and close all together. Okay, so this is the break element. We can go ahead and then press enter if we want, just so it can be tidy. And in here we put another break element. Okay, and then we press enter, and in here we put another break element and press enter. And let's save this now, and let's go to our browser and have a look. Okay, that's not the one here. refresh, and we can see there's a break here. Okay, so now we know how to do breaks in HTML. We can have one paragraph and have them into breaks. Now the next, let's kind of familiarize ourselves with attributes. Let's just tidy this up a little bit. So let's just remove this paragraph and let's just put a break here so that we know that we have learned about breaks, just so everything is a little bit tidier. And in here, before we start anything, let's right click and click format document. This will format everything tidy. As you can see, it puts spaces and everything is nice and tidy. Okay, so now let's introduce ourselves to HTML attributes. All HTML elements have attributes. Attributes provide additional information about the element. Attributes are always specified by starting a tag. An example would be a name value or a link of a name or a link. So let's say A, and an example would be a link A, and within this we can add the value of it, which to specify where we want it to go. So we can say href, and in here we'll say go to nowhere for now, and then we can write Google website, for example. When we save this, we can go to the browser now and refresh, and we can see that we have this here. So basically this is an attribute because it's literally giving us an information. So when we click it, it doesn't go anywhere. But if I go to google.com and just copy the link of google.com and go to my code, remove this hash and paste. Oh, we haven't copied it right. So if we just copy it again, just make sure it's copied and paste it now here. So we have it here, paste, then press save and just remove this. Okay, save. And now we just come back to our browser and refresh. We can see when we click, you say it's bringing us here. Now we have to go back to our page so that we can come back to this page. To fix this so that this page always stays, we can introduce ourselves to a different attribute within here. We can say target this link to a new blank. What this means is whenever someone clicks on this link, it's gonna open a new tab. It's not gonna open in the same page as this page. So if I save that, I refresh this, now I click on this, can you see? It comes to a new link. Our page still stays here. So these are some kind of attributes. We can also introduce the image attribute. Let's do that. We come back here, we leave that there, press enter, and in here, let's introduce ourselves to the image attribute. The way image attribute works is you need to declare that it's an image. You need to declare that it's an image, where it's coming from, and then you close the tab. The image attribute doesn't have things like image, close, and have an order. Let's change that to image. This doesn't work. This doesn't mean anything. Image attributes are just literally attributes that you have to specify the image and source and close. No need to close the tag like this. So what I'll do here, let's go and get an image from Google. So if we come here on Google, we search for Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse. In Mickey Mouse, let's download one of Mickey Mouse images. So let's just get that one, download as, and in our first page, let's just leave it as Mickey Mouse. Okay. However, we can do it that way. Well, what we do, we say show the folder, where the folder is. Let's create another folder, just so we have it tidy. Let's call it images, and then let's drag and drop this in here, so that we have our images separated from our HTML file. Now if we come back here, now if we just click on Explorer, you will be able to see that the image is here already. Now we'll just do that so that we can have more space to do our code. So in here, we can specify which folder is in. So we know that it's an images folder, and then we know that the name is Mickey_mouse.png. We save that. We come back to here and refresh. We can see that we have our Mickey Mouse here. However, because we haven't put a break or we haven't closed the tags, we can see that this is the same next to each other. We don't want that. We want it to be below it. How do you fix this? There's two ways to fix this. One, you can either put a break like this, save, and you say. The second way is you can introduce something called the containers, the blocks. How to create blocks is using div tags. These are blocks that separate from one other block. So if we copy this and put it here, and then we create another div tag, and then copy this and put it in that block, and then delete that and save that, and if we go back and refresh, we will see that it's still in the same. Okay, so this is how to create blocks. We will learn more about blocks as we go. Now let's introduce a bit more styling into our HTML. Let's learn about inline styling. So the inline styling, okay, the inline styling basically is having your style within the same HTML line. So what we can do here, we can put some styling in here, in all of these. So we can come here, in there, and then we can say style, this line, and make the font width to be 600. Then make the color, because it's American, all the colors, the word color itself is spelled as color American, so it's not British. So just know that when you're spelling the color, you don't put the U in it. So let's use aqua, for example. And in here, we have style. Let's say font weight. Let's use 500 this time. And the color to be green this time. And in here, the paragraphs, let's say style. And let's say font size. Let's have the font size to be 18 pixels. Okay. And let's have the colors. Let's have the color to be red. Okay. This one here. Let's have the style, font size to be 16 pixels. And let's have the color to be pink. Okay. Now that we have this, let's save this and go and see our style. This is called inline styling. So come back here, refresh. We can see that we have our colors and our fonts all changed. If we inspect this again, so I'll close this and show you how the inspect is done. Right click on where you want to inspect and say inspect. If we inspect this, we can see the colors are retained, and on the right side you can see the style has been applied to them. Okay, so now we have this. Let's do a bit more styling. Okay, let's style the image itself. In the image, let's add a width on the image. So when you add only a width on an image, you don't really need to put the word style. You can HTML will automatically pick that, knows that you are trying to style it. So on the width, we can literally say maybe 200. Okay, you don't need to put pixels because it will automatically detect that you mean pixels, but you are also allowed to put pixels if you want to. 200, basically, if you leave it that way, it will pick it will automatically detect that you mean 200 pixels width and 200 pixels height. Let me show you. So if I save it like this, I refresh, can you see it going down a little bit more? And then if I inspect this now, in the right, you can see that it's 200 pixels. Now, let's add height on it as well. We say height, 100 pixels height. Okay? Or 100, it doesn't matter, whichever way. And then I refresh. Can you see? It gives us a height of 100. Now, what we do, let's just remove this, or maybe let's just leave it as 200 by 200. Yeah, probably let's leave it as 200 by 200. Okay, so let's leave it like this. Now next, we've learned about the containers. We've learned about the inline styling. Now let's create some tables. Now with tables, as I told you about HTML5, let's just write tables first so we understand that we want to do tables. So with HTML5, as you know, it just simplifies everything so easy. So all you need to do is kind of declare that you want a table. So all I need to do is type table. And now that I have my table, I'll open my table in bracket. Now I want some headers. I want to have a header in my table. Now what I want to do is I want to have a TR, which is a section. Within that section, I want to have a TH, which is table header. Okay, I have my TH table header, and within that table header, let's say company name. Okay, and then we'll have another TH. We'll have contact details. So we have contact. Let's go up a little bit, and then we have country. So let's go another TH. We have the country. Let's just put this as a capital. So now that we have the section as the header section, now let's create another section that goes within these header sections. So TR, and now we put the content that relates to these. So TD, and TD will just say name will be, the company name will be, let's say Neem Consulting. Then we write another, the contact details will be info@neemconsulting.com. Then we have another TD, and the country will be United Kingdom. Okay, let's create more content. So let's duplicate this, copy, paste. Let's create 4, copy, paste, and copy, paste. Now we have this. Let's just change the title so we know that there's a bit of difference. So let's have Hub Software here. Let's have Google Ltd, and let's have LLA Media Ltd. Okay, let's save this. Now we go back to our browser, refresh our browser. We can see that, let me close this. We can see that we have got a table. Okay, but if you notice as well, it's too squeezed to this. So we need a bit of padding, space, and also we need to organize this so that it can be all in borders, etc. So we can do this in 2 ways. First, we're going to do it with inline styling, and then we will introduce ourselves to external styling. Okay, so in here we'll create an inline styling. Before we do the inline styling, let's get some space. Okay, so here we can say in that image, let's create a space from the image. So on the image we can say style, and we'll say padding dash bottom, give me 30 pixels space. Okay, now in here let's create an inline style. Here I can say border. I want 1 pixels border. If I save this, I refresh this, you can see that it's all in border now because we have introduced ourselves to borders. But also you can see that there is 30 pixels padding because we have introduced the padding on the image below. Now, I don't like this styling. I want to make it a little bit look better. How can we do this? We can introduce something called external styling. External styling, if you remember on the slides that we did at the first, you have to put your style in the header, in the head, and within the head will fetch all your details. So how to do this? We need to introduce ourselves to the style. So we need to create style, and then we need to close the style tag. Okay, like duplication. Okay, within this style, we will create all our styles. We'll put all our styles within this style tag. So here, we want to first create our table itself. So our table, let's say table. Let's open. So this is how to style. You have to reference the name of the table or whatever tag, the name of the tag, and then say what you want it to do. Here, I don't want any borders in the table. So I'll say border, and then I'll say collapse. And in there, I'll select collapse again. Now that I don't want any borders, I want the borders to collapse. Now I want the text not to be centered. I want it to be text aligned, and I want it to be left. Now that I have this, I want a bit of padding as well. So I'll say space. Padding means spacing. So I want the spacing around everything to be 8 pixels. So now we have that. Let's save this and go and see what we did. Come here, refresh. Can you see? That's on the left, and there's no borders. Okay, it still looks messy. So let's go ahead and style more. Come here. Now let's style the TD and TH. TD is the content that belongs to the headers. TH are the headers. So we'll say TD and TH, and within this, let's add borders within them. So we'll say border. We'll say we want it to be 1 pixels. We want it to be solid, and we want the color to be DDD. Okay. Now that we have this as a border, we want the text to be left, probably text left aligned, and we want to have padding in it. What we probably want to do is, let's get this, actually let's cut this, and let's bring this one here and leave that as border collapse. Now let's come here, refresh. If you notice, you can see the borders are there and the paddings are there, and everything is left aligned. Now it is like this. We can play with the width. If we want it to be full width, we can go to the table and say, I want the width to be 100% of any screen. If I refresh this, it will give me 100% of the width. I can specify the width to a pixels. I can say I want it to be 500 pixels. If I refresh this, it will give me 500 pixels. I can say I want it to be 50%. 50%. This will have 50% of any screen. I refresh, it gives me 50% of any screen. Now I want to add more styles, more colors introduced to my HTML, to my tables. So let's give colors to the TR. TR are the sections, each section. So here, what we probably want to do is, we color every section, not the TH, every section, and skip a section. So color this section, skip this section, color this section, skip this section. How to do this? There's something called the TR column, and then search for NTH, anything that not TH. So what you're telling it is, I want the TR, but not the TH, which is the header, and I want it to be even. So in there, now I can specify. I can say I want the background color. And then let's use the same TDD. Okay, so when we save this and refresh, we will see that it will not change anything. Okay, as you can see, this is because we haven't declared if we want it to be a child or not. So what we need to do here, we need to say dash the child as well. So now that we have done the child, we save it, we come back, refresh, you can see the colors are there. Okay, so now this is saying I want a TR that is not a TH, and I want the child to be even. So it's going to even it. So if there is 4, it's going to color 2. If there is 3, it's going to color 1. Okay, so now that we know how to do external style, now it's time for us to now know how to do list and blocks. So let's learn about list. We have learned about the tables. So now let's learn how to do list or create list on HTML. This is very easy way to do it. Lists are divided into 2 ways. We have the unordered list, and then we have the ordered list. Unordered list starts with a UL tag and a closed UL tag. A ordered list starts with an OL tag. What are the difference? This is not numbered or counted. So this starts with a dot. Then you have the ordered list. This starts with 1 upwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's try them out. Clear this. So let's do the unordered list first. We open our brackets and then close our bracket. In our bracket, unordered list, let's put our list there. So let's say what I like coffee, I like espresso coffee, and let's say milk. Okay, so this is our ordered list, unordered list. Now let's do the ordered list, the OL, and in the ordered list, let's create the same thing. Let's just copy that and paste in here. Okay, now let's save this and let's have a look. If you notice, this is the unordered list and this is the ordered list, 1, 2, 3. Now let's put titles on them so that we can differentiate them. Up ahead here, let's put a new header. Let's say header 3. Okay, and then we'll say unordered list. Okay, below it, let's put another header 3, and in here, let's say ordered list, and let's save that and refresh. So here we have our ordered list. If we just zoom this, here we have our unordered list and we have our ordered list. So this is how to create ordered list. Now let's learn more about the blocks. As we remember, under blocks you can use blocks as div tags. But however, we haven't done a lot about the blocks. So let's do a few more projects within the blocks. So blocks are like wrappers. Everything of your content, your elements goes within it. So you can, when you have this block, you can create anything or anything that you want to put in it. We can put our unordered list in it, and this will differentiate it for us so that we know that it's a block. Okay, let me close this tag. We just remove that and save. And now we come back here, we just refresh. Now let's inspect this, where we put our ordered list. Now if we just hover through the div tag here, you will see that that whole section is a block, and this is called a div tag. So now that we understand that if we want to separate things, we can use the div tag, we know how to create ordered list that starts 1, 2, 3, 4 upwards. Now we know how to create unordered list, which gives you the list of things you need with a bullet point. Now we know how to create tables. You just create a word table, create your section, create your header, and create the contents that goes within those headers. Now we know how to create a style, how to design the tables within the style, external style. Now we have done all of this. Now the next, we're going to learn about external style sheet, separation of a style. We're going to take this style, we're going to put it in a different file, and we are going to fetch the design from that file. And then we are going to introduce ourselves to classes. So let's go to Explorer. In Explorer, let's create a new folder in here. If you can see that icon, add a new folder here, and let's call this CSS. Okay, within the CSS, let's add a new file. We'll say CSS style.css. Okay, now we have our style sheet. Now let's go to the HTML file. Now let's close this. Let's go to the HTML file. Let's close that. Let's copy all these styles that we want. Let's come here and let's paste the style here and press save. Okay, now we have to remove this. Now that we remove this in the header, now we need to link this. So what you do, you put the link rel style sheet and reference the file. This piece of line of code will reference this and take it from the files. And then anytime we have any single classes that are in here, it will show it on our live version, which is the site. So now we're going to reference the style where it's coming from, the source. There's two ways we can do this. We can just go here and click on the CSS, copy, and then copy relative path. Right click, copy relative path. Now we just close that back. Now we go to the HTML and then we paste this in here. Now that we have pasted this here, just do that and then do that. Okay. If you notice, there is an issue. We have created the folder within the image. We don't want to do that. We want to have our CSS folder separated. So we'll come here outside the CSS folder. We'll just drag it and bring it out. So we'll just drag it out and say move. So now it's out of it. Now that it's out of it, if we just try and type CSS, you can see it's already suggesting it for you. Now press save on this, refresh, and you will see the style on the table still is maintained. Remember, the style on the table now is on here. Now let's check this if this is still working. Now on these paragraphs, we want to remove these styles and we want to introduce the classes. Okay, so we'll delete all these styles. Okay, now we save this. We come here and introduce those styles. So we want the header one, so we'll create a new class. So we'll call it header. We'll so a new paragraph, new P or new header, let's say. So classes, it doesn't matter the name you call it, as long as you reference that name within your HTML. So in here, we will say font size will be 20 pixels. Font width will be 600 pixels. And then we'll say color will be red. Okay. Now we can copy this new header. We can put it in all the headers. So here we'll say class, and then we bring the new header, and then we'll say class. We'll say class, and then bring the new header. So now we want to create the paragraphs as well. In here we can say new P, okay, and then put a dot here and say color. We will just want to put a color. Let's say color pink. Okay, save. Then in here we'll say class and we'll say new P. Then we'll say class and then we'll say new P. So now we have referenced that. We save that. We come here, refresh, close this. Can you see? The red is referencing from our styles and the paragraphs are pink. See? Now we can change this. We can remove this on the line on that link. How you do that? We can use the A. So we can say A, and in here we can say text decoration, we can say no. Okay, we save that, we refresh. Can you see? The underline is gone. We can also put a color on this when you hover through this icon, so it gives you a different color. So how to do this? We'll just say A, which is the link. So we can say a dot, and we can say when it's hovered, make the color to be red. Okay, when we save this and now go to our web page and refresh this, and now when we hover here, can you see the link has been changed? So now we can see that we can work with our external file and build whatever we want to build. Now I think now we will start introducing JavaScript to our site. To do this, let's go back to our HTML. Now let's come here, let's create a new folder. Okay, let's create a new file in here, and it will be our new HTML that has some JavaScript in it. So we'll create a new file and we'll say js.html. So now let's start building our first JavaScript. To do this, let's do our structural HTML first, which is the doc type, and then we will then do our HTML. Then we'll do our head. Then we'll have our title. In the title we'll say the JS page. Okay. Then we will then create our body. And in there we will now build our JS script in it. To create a JS file, let's create a header. And let's say this is our first JS. JS stands for JavaScript. Let me just write it in full so that we're aware. Okay. Now maybe the easiest way is bring in a button. And the button, when we click on the button, it gives us something. So what we do is we want maybe to give us a time. So let's say when you click on this button, give me a time. Maybe the UK time, current time, what date is it, and stuff like that. So how you do this, let's create a button first. To create a button, this is how to create a button. And within that button, we will then put our sentence. Let's say the sentence will be, click on this button to get the time. Okay. And then in the middle, we now need to put our queries in it. We need to put our type, and the type is a button. Okay. And in there, we need to say when it's clicked. So we need to put our onClick, and the onClick will be a document, and it will get the element ID, and then when it gets the element ID, we'll open our bracket, and in there we need to create our string in there. Okay, so in there we'll just say demo. Okay, I'm just gonna outside there, I'm just gonna click on enter so that we can complete it from there. In there I will say inner HTML, and then it equals to the date, and then I'll open and close the bracket. This is a JavaScript snippet, and basically what it's saying is when you click on this button, when it's unclicked, give me the document and get the ID as a demo. Okay, and literally give me the date. So now we have our button set. Now let's put the function in so it can work. So now we need to put the output. So we need to say give me a paragraph, and the paragraph will be ID equals to the JS that I have here. Actually it's a demo. So let's just change that to demo, and then we close our paragraph. We save that. Now we come here, refresh, and then click. You see it's giving us the output. If I remove this, it's not going to give us the output. It's still working, but it's just not showing you the output. So the paragraph is giving us the output, which is the ID. So I'll come here, refresh, and it's giving us the output. So now that we have learned how JavaScript works with HTML, now let's learn how JavaScript can work with styling as well. To do this, what I want to achieve is I want a button. When a button is clicked, it styles a content. So to do this, we have to build functions in JavaScript. So first, let's create our div tags, which is our containers, and let's put a header 1, and the header 1 will say second JavaScript code. And after then, let's build our output. Our output will be a paragraph, and then let's build our output. Our output will be a paragraph, and within this paragraph, let's write JavaScript styling. Okay, so let's leave it as JavaScript styling. We will come back to this later. Now we have to build our function. In here, let's create our script. To build a function, you have to write your script, your function within the JavaScript script. Now we have to declare the function. The function is that, and we'll just call it my function, and then we'll put a bracket. And within this curly brackets, we'll now go and get the document. So now, before we write our document, let's come back here and create an ID so that it can detect this function that we're going to write. So let's say ID is demo2. Okay. So now we come back here, and now we're going to say document, and now we're going to say get an element ID, and this ID will be demo2. Okay. Now I want you to style this, so I'll say dot style it, and I'll say the style is, I want the font size to be 25 pixels. Okay, so now I have styled the font size. I can do as many as I want here. I can now do the color maybe, so I'll say document dot get ID. In there I can say demo2 again, and out of it I'll say dot style this for me, and I want it to color, and I want the color to be red. Okay, and this needs to be in a curly bracket in there like that. Okay, and that needs to change to that. Okay, so now that we have this, let's put a bit more styling. So let's say do more styling on this. Document dot get element in bracket demo2 dot style this for me. Then I want it to be background color. So how the styling works, the wording of the styling works for the JavaScript styling is, in a normal convention on CSS, it will be dash, and this will be a lowercase. But in JavaScript, it needs to be capitalized, the initiatives, like that. And the value needs to be in quotations. And in there, I'll just say yellow. Okay, and I'll close that. Let's add one more. So I'll say document dot get ID, and now I'll say in bracket demo2, and then I'll say style dot, I'll say font weight. So you say font, and then the next will be a capital font weight, like that. Okay, and then here I'll say 600. Okay, so now we have done this. We close our script. We close our script. Outside our script, now we want the button. Now the button will be, remember how to write button. That's your button. And then within the button, we need to say click me now. Okay, and then within here we need to reference the type. So the type is a button, and then we need to write our on click, if you remember what we did before. So we'll say on click, and we'll bring in the function, this function. Okay, so we'll just say here my function, and we'll bring in there the brackets. Okay, now that you have bring in your functions, now this should work as long as you've saved it. So I'll save this. We'll come back to our JavaScript, refresh. Now we have this, and now when we click, can you see it has styled it for us? So when I refresh, it's here. When I click, it's styled. So we have done the styling using JavaScript. So now you know how to do HTML, CSS, how CSS works with HTML, how JavaScript works, how JavaScript works with HTML, how JavaScript works with CSS. Now we have done the first part of the course. Now the second part of the course that we are going to do in the next video, we're going to now learn about the convention, the general convention of HTML, the semantics, and basically use Bootstrap to build our full professional portfolio website. So it'll be very, very useful for you to follow along in the next video, because we will actually start building a full website from scratch.